Hey guys, Brady here. So listen to me. What happens when you take someone like this and make a movie about one of their most popular villains? But before we must talk about the film are talking about, let's talk about Spider-Man. Spider-Man as a whole is fine. We had some good stuff for Spider-Man. We had the Spider-Man 80s cartoon or 60s cartoon. We had the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon. We had Spider-Man Unlimited, Spider-Man Web Warriors, Marvel's Ultimate Spider-Man Web Warriors. He had crossovers, of course. And before Spider-Man, there was Spider-Woman, the cartoon. Spider-Man even crossed over with the sitcom Jessie. That's just Disney XD being dumb and stupid. But in terms of films, it's fine. We had the Sam Raimi films, right? We had Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3, the one that gets the most hate. I have yet to watch any of those films because I am not caught up with the times. Then came the Amazing Spider-Man duology. The Amazing Spider-Man was alright, and then the sequel, get out of here. It's just terrible. And then we had Spider-Man Homecoming, which is fantastic, and then we had Spider-Man Far From Home, which was even more fantastic. However, making a movie about a side character isn't the best idea. At first, it seemed like a horrendous idea because Cars 2 came out, and that was based entirely on Mater and nothing else. So, as you would imagine, the film flopped. And ever since, people have been trying to replicate something like Cars 2. People have been making side character films for a really long time. Characters that have yet to have their own movie. Films like Iron Man and Hulk, and Incredible Hulk, Thor Ragnarok, Thor Dark World, Captain America First Adventure, Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, Deadpool 2. He has a Deadpool 3 coming soon, I don't know. X-Men had stuff. Well, now we're just talking about franchises. But in terms of side characters, there's really nothing to it. Like I said, Cars 2 flopped, so every other side character movie has to flop as well, including Venom, which is the film that we're going to be talking about. Sadly, it was destroyed at the box office, it failed with critics, and it just didn't make any lick of sense. People gave it instant, horrible reviews. Now, much like everyone, when we saw the preview, it looked incredible. However, for most people, Into the Spider-Verse was better than this. But in other standards, I just really can't understand how a Venom movie could do good. On the other hand, it seems ideally. I mean, he's already sort of a side character. I mean, he's a villain. I mean, then again, we could have gotten Green Goblin the movie or Sabretooth the movie. That's not even a Spider-Man villain. Almost. We could have gotten other stuff too, like remember the side characters in Ultimate Spider-Man Web Warriors? They could get movies. Take notes, Marvel. And by the way, and this is also technically a Sony movie too, because Sony and Columbia Pictures teamed up with Marvel to create this hunk of junk. Now I gotta emphasize, just like Space Jam and Pixels and a little bit of the Angry Birds movie. I did like it. I'm sorry. I really am sorry, okay? I'm not a critic. I just want to emphasize right now, I am not a critic. And I never will be. I just review movies because I want to review them. But sadly, we gotta decipher how this undecipherable mess came to be. And I don't even know the problem with this film. I mean, it seems ideally to make a Venom film in 2018. You guys know what 2018 is? It's the exact same year as Ready Player One. And when Ready Player One came out, they're like, oh, this is the better movie. Well, yeah, I mean, but the other is Venom. So you gotta choose, basically. And naturally, everybody went with Ready Player One. But I bet it's getting worse and worse reviews as it goes. I think it's still standing at 70%-ish. But anyways, the story here is there's this character named Eddie, and he is just your normal, typical civilian guy who lives in an apartment with a obnoxious guitar player across from him. So naturally, he gets infected with this thing called a symbiote, which Spider-Man fans, unlike me for some reason, understand what a symbiote is. I watched the Spider-Man cartoons. I know what a symbiote is. But, yeah. So he gets infected with the symbiote, and he starts hearing voices inside of his head, and he starts hallucinating, and starts eating a ton of stuff, and starts barfing into the toilet. So naturally, he thinks something is wrong with him. So, it turns out that the symbiote creature came from outer space via, from your perspective, via a spaceship. And people have been, people in this film have actually been, scientists scientific discoveries apparently confirm that symbiotes are really dangerous. As if we didn't know already. So, what does Eddie do? He turns into Venom. And he goes on a freaking rampage through the city. He even gets chased by cops, which causes for some interesting stuff to happen. He gets on a motorcycle, he gets chased by the cops, yada yada yada. Then there's comedy to this film. Oh boy, we're gonna be here a long day. Even one part, he's like, excuse my words, he's like, Venom is like, inside of his head, he's like, jump off the building. And then Eddie's like, no, I don't want to do that. And he's like, well, you got to make your chance right now. And by the way, this is actually how he talks. That's how Venom talks in this movie. And so he chooses the elevator, and he's like, pussy. And instantly, when I heard that in the theater, I just laughed hard. Once again, there are good jokes in this film. However, there aren't enough good jokes to fill an entire review. But that's the point of a really awkwardly made CGI film. I think this just occurred to me that I think the CGI is what caused the film to flop. Because you've seen Green Lantern, and that had horrendous CGI. And especially films back then, comic book films were still seen as kid stuff. And so CG was on the edge of being the most popular thing for those movies. But anyways, let's get to the final act. And that's when just all the action happens. Yeah. Everything that you thought would be in this film is in this film, by the way. So there are actually two symbiotes. One is black and one is silver. Eddie has inherited the one that will stop the evil symbiote from taking over the world. And no, it isn't Carnage. Marvel, take notes. I think you're making a Carnage film right now, and I think you're doing it fast. You better make it, because I'm going to probably go see it someday. Maybe stream it at home with my dad, because me and Blake, my brother, saw it in theaters. Yes. All right. So, of course, we all know Venom, obviously, saves the day via Eddie. Of course, they're like saving the day now, ending Venom. So, in the end, Venom, I still like it, but I can see why people hate this film. I can see why it is horrendously bad. For one, the story is absolute garbage. It makes no sense. And some of the jokes are just uncanny and unfunny at times. Except for that elevator scene. And the CG may be very, very bad, but it makes for some interesting antics. So, I could maybe recommend this film. I can't even speak correctly because of this review. Alright, so if you guys need more stuff on this channel, I'd be glad to deliver. So, see you guys next time for a game review. And I've already made my final decision on the game that I'm reviewing, and it's a good game. Thank God it's not a bad game. Anyways, sayonara, peeps. Take care. Be sure to go follow my brother on his social media and his new channel that he's posting videos on. Anyways, sayonara.